big thanks for sharing the stories, and this kind of stands out compared to everything else that I'm going to talk on whatever we are doing. So my name is Ankur Bhagat. As I think I introduced, I lead the supply chain function for the company, and I'm also the executive sponsor for the inclusion of LGBTQ plus, what we call as GALO, and I'll talk a little about it. For us, the mission or the vision is very simple. That anybody, irrespective of what is the background, including sexual orientation being one of the factors, should be able to come to work in an unapologetic way and bringing their authentic selves, because we strongly believe that only when we get our authentic selves without worrying about anything else, we perform at our peak, right? And that's something which all of us, fully understand, from childhood, as we heard in many stories. The way we bring this to life is what we call as a 4V framework, and I'll explain just some examples around it. It is, stands for being visible, being versed, which is understanding, what the space is all about, being vocal and being vigilant. The starting point has to be sensitization. So we globally, the company has the people chapter since 1992. That's when in US we included, sexual orientation as one of our inclusive policies, that irrespective, we want to ensure that there is absolutely no discrimination and we get our authentic selves to work. In India, we started this, around 2018. The first step that we do is, in sensitization, it goes back, as Vishal was saying, right from the senior most levels of the company to down to folks who are working on the plant shop floor. Just a basic understanding of what the LGBTQ plus community stands for. And then what does it mean that, what is it that, how they have kind of been working, what are some of the societal norms, what are the right do's and don'ts, and what can you do if you are an active ally, in the company to be able to support the cause of ensuring that we do not see any discrimination, whatsoever. So sensitization is the starting point, because, if there is ignorance, it's very difficult to kind of fault the person till, as some of us were talking, till it comes to a point where at the education level itself, all of us become aware, which is still some time away, and you can't kind of change history overnight. Ongoing, what we are doing is that this one-time effort we did, and now I think the beauty is that every batch of new hires who joins PNG, we have Gable at Work, which is our, Gable is the logo that we use for LGBTQ plus inclusion, included as a mandatory training. So by design, anybody and everybody who has to join PNG will go through that training. So sensitization is now built in, because that's the start of change of culture. This then needs to be supported with the right infrastructure and the right policies, because you can have the sensitization, but unless you are really safe at space, there is not much that you are kind of moving on what is on paper to bringing it to life inside the office space. And infrastructure is simple things like having gender-neutral washrooms. Again, to the point when Mr. was speaking, there are folks who could be under transition. There are folks who are not comfortable to either go to a men or women's washroom, to a cisgender washroom. So I think it is, we have now done that at all our offices, and we are doing it progressively across all our plant locations. It's also a change of culture when people come into the office and see that there is a gender-neutral washroom. It's also a big indicator, of this. But it goes beyond. For example, we have inclusion pathways. So if any of you ever comes to the PNG general office in Mumbai, as you enter the office, there is a huge rainbow crossing which says everyone is welcome here. And it's not something in the closet, it's not something which is at one end of the office. It is pretty much as you enter. It is there for every employee, it is there for every vendor, every supplier, every customer, every potential recruit, that this is what the company stands for. This allyship is visible through, we have laptop stickers, we have, lanyards, we have, including other things that we do with every activation that we can to ensure that the smell of the place as you walk into the office gives you a real sense that this is a safe space for anybody who is from the community. So that's, around what we do on infrastructure. In terms of policies, everything that is, allowed, we now have policies which are consistent, whether it is parental leave or the infertility policy, and sometimes we don't realize, right? The infertility policy as an example, something which I feel very proud of. For most of the heteronormative couples, it is definitely a one. But in many cases for same-sex couples, that is probably the only way in which you can get to parenting if you want. So it is policies like these which allow us to again ensure that folks who are coming in can focus on the work and not be worried about what are the other infrastructure needs and so on. Doing all of this, big thing is about having the allies inside, and that is done through multiple conversations that we have. We have conversations where we have working couples, and we have couples who are heterosexual, but we also have same-sex couples, and we have normalized the conversation that is no different, because the challenges, the demands of what they go through is exactly the same. It is just that they happen to be same-sex. This normalizes because it is